Hello everyone, it is the Monday, May 20th edition of the Better Crossbar Barker video series, and we're going to do our best to keep our happy face on this morning, regardless of the fact that we had received half inch of rain, I should say, yesterday afternoon, which did a real good job of chasing all of us out of the field here locally. We're just starting to get rolling and make some decent bit of progress, but that has come to a screeching halt, and the next few days don't look all that encouraging either. So I'd certainly rather be somewhere else than sitting here in the warehouse. But the topic we obviously need to discuss is where we're at and what's the plan going forward. Well, I did a quick survey this morning of my fellow Pioneer reps in the area that I correspond back and forth with. And that area is mostly from the north corner of Middlesex up into the top end of Perth County. And locally here, I would say we'd be hard pressed to have 5% of the corn acres in the ground. As you go north, it was there's a little bit more progress, certainly, maybe more in the 15 to 20% possibly. But at the end of the day, through this neighborhood, if there's 10% of the corn acres in the ground, that's likely about where it sits. Across the province, I would be surprised that it's much more than that. And even if it's 15%, that still leaves a significant amount of corn yet to be planted. It's destined to be planted here the last week in May, maybe the first week in June. This is uncharted territory for us through this area. I was actually talking to a farmer from Haldimand County on the weekend, and he says, it's just good for you fellas to have to go through this late planting and wet soil thing. He says, we deal with this every year. He says, it's not a big deal, so get used to it. But up here in this part of Ontario, we are not used to having to wait till June to plant corn. So we, consequently, the industry support doesn't really know how to interpret and how to advise people going forward. That's because of a lack of experience. If I can think back, the only year that I recall that was similar to this, and memory's faulty, I'll admit, but the year that I do recall all the way back was 1983. 1983 was a year where the Ontario corn crop did not get planted till the end of May. There was snow in this area on Mother's Day, a good 5 to 6 inches, and consequently field work just didn't happen in May in 1983. Conversely, though, it was the same year that the U.S. government decided they had too much corn inventory, and they paid the U.S. Midwest corn grower not to plant corn. A percentage of the acres, if I recall, I think it was like 25% or something like that. The balance of the crop in the American Midwest that year was planted more or less normal time. But what happened after that was a drought summer. And the combination of the reduced acres and the severe drought through the summer of 1983 did a very good job in 1 year of eliminating any corn surplus that was sitting in U.S. bins. Here in Ontario that same year, as I mentioned, we didn't get planted until more or less the 1st of June. That hot, dry summer, though, was something that was in our favor because we had heat through June, July, and August. There was enough moisture to finish the crop, and actually people, the old-timers like myself, remember that, and we had pretty respectable yields. So you will still hear about folks of my vintage talking about, well, we planted corn in June, by golly, it turned out all right, and that can happen. Potentially, there's always possibility that will happen. However, we do need to remain realistic that corn planted on the last few days of May, 1st of June, certainly is the probability that it's going to have lower yield potential. We have to face facts. If I put my farmer hat on today, I have to think about, okay, how much corn am I going to plant? I'm a cash cropper. I don't need corn for feed. If you need corn for feed, well, the answer is you got to keep rocking and rolling. You have no choice. And your hybrid decisions going forward are slightly different than the rest of us. From a cash crop point of view, we kind of think, okay, why should we plant corn? Well, the reasons we should plant corn, I guess, first of all, price is going up. The American farmer is in the same problem, same boat that we are in. He's having trouble getting the crop in the ground. Reduced acres, and the commodity funds are beginning to anticipate that. And as we sit here and speak today, corn prices are appreciating. Soybean prices are as well, but they were down in the dumper, so they still have a ways to go. But so that's one reason to plant corn. The other reason maybe to stick with corn at the moment is that corn hybrids will respond to day length. And that's probably a bit of a surprise to everybody, but it's true. What I mean by that, we know corn is predominantly a heat-driven crop, but it's not 100% heat-driven. It will shorten up its development period. It will shorten up its grain fill period. When it's planted late, it actually can sense a little bit that the season's not in its favor, and it will tighten up and go through its development stages quicker than it is in a normal year. In other words, if you take a normal hybrid, if you take a 3,000 heat unit hybrid, for example, plant it May 1, if it takes 3,000 heat units to get to maturity, plant the same hybrid on June 1st, it might take 2,850, 2,900 heat units to get to maturity. So that's why you'll kind of hear a standard recommendation of seed companies not to change the maturities too much till late in May. We're kind of past that now, and we're going to talk about that maybe in the next video session. But for now, the two primary reasons for staying with corn: prices, and we still can make the corn crop can still develop and be respectable. Why wouldn't we grow corn? Well, okay, we're potential yield is certainly lower. There's no question. It's going to be wetter. Its test weight potentially could be a challenge, but we'll see. It'll depend on what we get for the rest of the year. Soybean yield potential still basically 100%. We can still grow pretty good soybeans if we plant soybeans in the first part of June. So you get into this balance of whether, either from a cash flow point of view, it makes more sense to continue with corn or plant soybeans. That's a decision that each and every one of you are simply going to have to make. I can't give you a whole lot of guidance in that. We'll just promise to do the very best we can to help you through whatever choices that you decide to make. So that's kind of the situation we're at today, at the moment. Now, I'm going to end this video at this point, and the next session, the next few minutes, we're going to spend talking about, well, if you do decide to grow corn, what are the management things? What are the management options? How do you need to think about it going forward? So that's the next session that we will get to. So if you're so inclined, stay tuned. Take care.